Hello, I'm Aaron Cole, and I help people make great real estate investments. Thank you for tuning in to my real estate investment channel. Regularly, I'm contacted by homeowners who are considering a very important decision. They're thinking about purchasing another home, but instead of selling their current home, they're thinking about keeping it and renting it out. Sounds like it could be a profitable decision, but is it? And we'll talk about that and look at some of the considerations for this question in this episode. So the question is, should I keep and rent out my current home? Well, the answer is, it depends. It depends on how you're going to look at some of the information we're going to talk about. Number one, the thing to consider is the financial considerations. You want to run the numbers and do some financial analysis. What would you rent your property for? What's the rental amount? What are the expenses that you're going to be having to pay as you own the rental property? You want to look at some financial indicators. You want to look at the cash-on-cash return. You might want to look at a cap rate return. You'll definitely want to include property taxes in your expenses. You know, in our state, in South Carolina, I'm in upstate South Carolina, we deal with a 4% or 6% tax assessment depending on how the property is owned. So you'll definitely want to consider this. And what about the value of the home? Has it sort of reached a plateau? Is there an indication that it should increase more in value? And on the selling side, if you're weighing that in, what does selling the home look like in the current market? What's the current market value, and how would the selling process go? Is it a good time to sell? You'll probably want to contact a real estate expert like myself, or a property manager to help you understand all the aspects of renting and selling your home. So moving on, next, if the financials make sense, you'll want to think very specifically about yourself. If the financials make sense, what about you? Are you in a good financial situation? Do you have adequate savings to be able to manage your home that you're buying as well as the home that you're keeping and renting out? It's a very important decision, and that's a completely different position to be in than just having one property. You will likely want to speak to your financial planner and get his or her perspective on the opportunity that you're thinking, keeping your home and renting it out and purchasing another one. And then some subjective things, I would call them. What's your interest in doing this? Are you planning on renting and managing your property yourself? Do you have the skills to do it? Do you have the interest to do it? Or if you don't have that, do you have the relationships, a property manager relationship, the contractor relationships, HVAC, general repair person, to be able to make this a successful endeavor. A little story, a couple that I worked with just recently had called me with the very question we're looking at. You know, we're thinking about keeping our home and moving to another property. Is mainly driven by a special school that their kids went to that was farther from their home than where they wanted to be, and the driving was getting to be a very significant thing. So I spent a lot of time asking them questions about their interests and gathering information about the property. I did a financial analysis for them as well, and the decision for them was pretty clear. A little more background: both the husband and wife, a young couple, they had just recently started businesses. The husband worked in manufacturing, so he had a good job, but he had started another business as well, and so cash was pretty tight. And then after we looked at the financials, I've got to say that they did not look very good. The property had increased significantly in value, 23% in the value of the property in the last 2 years, and the rents for the property just had not gone up. So from a rental perspective, it did not make a lot of financial sense to own and rent this property out. Plus, since the value had increased, made a lot of sense for them to go ahead and sell the property and cash out and to cash in on the appreciation that they had. So made a lot of sense for them to go ahead and sell and move on rather than keep their property and rent it out. A final thing, and I'll lump all these into a category I call other considerations. We've talked about, does it make financial sense? What about you personally? Are you in a good position to be able to do it? But now we're talking about other considerations and some other things to consider. Do you think you would ever return back to the home? Maybe you're in a job transfer situation and it's not a permanent transfer and you really like your home and you might return to it. Well, that should figure into your consideration of keeping the property. And what about the future of real estate in the market? Is it anticipated to increase? The value anticipated to increase? I realize this may be a bit of a speculative thought, and I typically don't do a whole lot. My clients don't do a whole lot with speculation, but it could be very important in this situation if you're thinking that the market may increase significantly in the next few years. Some other things to consider, and you may want to talk to your tax preparer or CPA, is capital gain consideration, other tax considerations. Well, that's it. That's our information for today. Thank you for tuning in. If you have questions about what the information I provided, or if you have a specific property you'd like me to look at with you or analyze with you, I'm happy to do that. Thank you again for tuning in.